close. He's looking at the SNPs wrong, and he's trying to force things into where they don't go. And biologically, you can't do that when it comes to DNA. So his results came up wrong. All right, let's move on to chapter 7. And he said, Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. We now move to the most contested branch of the human tree, the House of Shem. The forensic paternal seal of this house is the Y-alu polymorphism, YAP for short. Mainstream science, often directed by institutions within the modern state of Israel, claims that the E1B1A signature cannot be found in the Levant. However, the biological ledger tells a different story. When we audit the ancient burial sites and the royal mummies of the Near East, we find the Yap plus seed exactly where the biblical record placed it, in the tents of Judah, the palaces of Egypt, and the foundational layers of the Levant. Welcome to Chapter 7. Forensic map, Shem and Ham and shared occupied lands. The shared occupancy. The biblical record states that Shem and Ham occupied the Levant and Egypt as neighbors. The forensic record confirms this through the discovery of basal Hamitic groups, basal G and H, alongside Shemetic Yap groups in the same stratigraphic layers. Burial site evidence. In the southern region, the historical territory of the Kingdom of Judah, and alongside the Jordan River, ancient remains have yielded the Y-alu polymorphism. These findings are often suppressed or labeled as atypical because they do not fit the M89 narrative favored by modern researchers. The Egyptian link. Ancient Egyptian burial sites consistently show a mixture of haplogroup A and B, Ham, with haplogroup E, Shem. This confirms the 400-year residency and the shared history of the two houses in the Nile Valley. Now onto the forensic evidence, E1B1A and other Yap seals in Ground Zero. While mainstream summaries often use the broad E1B1B label to muffle the specific identity of the Levant, raw data reveals the Yap presence, E1B1A, also known as EM2, groups D and C variants who carry the Yap signature in these specific sites. The Natufian Foundation, the Levant. Finding ancient remains from the Natufian culture, the first settlers of the Levant, were confirmed to carry the Yap Foundation. While often labeled broadly as E, detailed analysis have identified E1B1A signatures dating back to air quotes 14,000 years ago. Source information, Lazarus et al. 2016, Nature, the genetic structure of the world's first formers. This study confirms the Natufian Levant was a Yap stronghold before the M89 intrusion. The royal lineage of Egypt, 20th dynasty. Finding genetic testing of Ramses III and his son Pentueret confirmed they carry haplogroup E1B1A. This proves that the specific Jacob seed was not just a laborer, but held the highest administrative power in the Nile-Levant corridor. Source: Hayawas et al. 2012. British Medical Journal, Revisiting the Harem Conspiracy, the Death of Ramses III. This is the technical smoking gun for E1B1A in the Near East. Next, the Amarna 18th Dynasty burials. Findings here. DNA analysis from the Amarna period identified both E1B1A and mitochondrial L lineage in the elite burial, proving the shared Shemetic and Hamitic occupancy of the region. Hayawas et al. 2010, JAMA, Ancestry, Pathology in King Tutankhamun's family. The Jordan Valley. Finding. Foundational haplogroup E signatures have been identified in the Jordan River region and the Judean hill, Matzah, placing the Shemetic seal directly in the territory of the Kingdom of Judah, Moab, and Ammon. Our source, Feldman et al., 2019. Nature Communication documents the genetic continuity of haplogroup E in the Neolithic Levant. Let's now have a quick look at the other Yap groups. All right. The Eastern Seal, Haplogroup D, also known as M174, and the YAP plus root, the finding. Identification of the white alu polymorphism. We all know it's YAP for short by now, as a unique binary marker that defines the DE clade, D and E. The research tracks the D M174 lineage moving through the Levantine and Arabian corridors before settling in East Asia. We have a citation from Shah et al., 2008. Y chromosome evidence of the earliest modern human settlement in East Asia, BMC Biology. I will have that link source in the description. Feel free to check it out. And if you like the video so far and the information that you're receiving, share your favorite piece of evidence in the comment section by now, aka the mailbox. All right, moving on. The YAP plus C glitch evidence of global dispersion. The finding, documentation of the YAP plus insertion within rare haplogroup C clusters, specifically CP39 and related variants. This proves that the YAP seal was assigned to Shemetic lineages that were administratively labeled C by mainstream science. Citation, Zong et al., 2010. Global distribution of Y chromosome haplogroup C reveals a history of the first human relationships between the Asia Pacific and the Americas. Journal of Human Genetics, link in the bio. Indigenous anchor E1B1B, also known as M35, in the Levant. The finding, high resolution study of the Samaritans, the Samaritans, identifying their lineages as indigenous to the Levant and carrying the YAP plus E1B1B signature. This proves the DE seal is the native biological watermark on the biblical landscape. Citation, Shen et al., 2004, reconstruction of patrilineages and matrilineages of Samaritans and other neighboring populations from Y chromosome and mitochondrial DNA sequence variations, Annals of Human Genetics, linked in the bio as well. The foundation, the YAP M1 signature. So they saying this is the foundation of the YAP. The finding, technical data defining the YAP insertion as one of the most stable and ancient set-apart markers in human history. It establishes the DE M1 root as distinct from the M89 expansion and the Hametic basal. Citation. This one comes from one of the pioneers, Peter Underhill et al., 2001. The phylogenetic system of binary haplogroups of the human Y chromosome. Annals of Human Genetics. This will be linked in the bio as well. I like to say thank you to Peter Underhill, you and your constituents, for this phylogenetic tree system. You helped us find your glitches. Without this, we would not be able to point out how you guys have misled the world when it comes to genetics and labeling these haplogroups. Thank you very much. Side note, I can't just give all the credit for to the mainstream geneticists and deceiving archaeologists who made these reports to help us find and link all this information. I also have to give a good thanks and shout out to all the independent DNA analysts who take the time to go back and look at all these ancient findings and correct the deception of those people who are sharing this report. Because when you actually go back and look at it, it's so much deception and how they try to remove and hide E1B1A from these regions. It's the crafty council. It's very strong. And again, with that being said, thank you all for the work that you do. Without you all, this audit would not be possible. So back to this audit. It's finished. Our next piece of forensic evidence is the Great Scattering, the Roman Eviction, and the Edomite overlap. The year is 70 AD. The Roman legion under Titus did not just level a city, they executed a systematic biological eviction, while the Assyrians provided the prototype for categorical overlap in the north. The Romans finalized the total displacement of the YAP E1B1A seed from the south. This was not a random scattering of refugees. It was a targeted removal of a specific lineage. The forensic receipt, Josephus and the 1.1 million. The record, Flavius Josephus, a primary eyewitness, records in the Jewish War that over 1.1 million Judeans perished during the siege and approximately 97,000 were taken captive. The migration path. Josephus notes that many who escaped the Roman sword fled south into the blind spots of the African interior, Egypt, Phoenicia, and beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, returning to the ancient buffer zones where the Yap House had already established forensic strongholds. The internal breach, E1B1B, Edom versus E1B1A, Israel. The deception, the destruction of Jerusalem was aided by an internal phylogenetic betrayal. While the Romans provided the external force, the E1B1B Edomites, who carries the brother Yap signature, also known as M35, were recorded by Josephus as the Idumeans who entered the city, looted the temple, and slaughtered the inhabitants. Forensic significance. Mainstream science uses categorical overlap to group both E1B1A and E1B1B into a single African or Berber bucket. Our audit separates them. E1B1B acted as the Edomite gatekeeper that helped destroy and loot the house of E1B1A. They occupied the physical location, the Levant, while the original E1B1A owners were forensically pushed into the interior of Africa. The Scientific Ledger, Luis et al., 2004. The evidence. To back this audit, we cite Luis et al., 2004. The Levant versus the Horn of Africa. Evidence from bidirectional gene flow. This study is a forensic receipt showing the clear genetic link between the Levant and the Horn west of Africa. Findings. The research confirms that the Yap signatures found in the Levant and Africa share a specific stable origin. While the study uses migration as a neutral term, we identify it as the 70 AD post-Roman eviction. It proves the E1B1A seed did not evolve in the rainforest. It was a high intelligence population that moved its biological ledger from the Levantine epicenter to the Niger. Yes, I used the Latin pronunciation for that word. Let's not get caught up on the word Niger. Let's carry on with the audit. We have a forensic side note here. On these little forensic side notes, you notice. In 70 AD, the world witnessed one of the most perfect onomastic displacements. The E1B1B Edomites looted the wealth of the land, while the E1B1A Israelites were pushed into the wilderness. Mainstream science now uses the E label to silence this history, claiming these groups are all the same, but the record of Josephus and the data of Luis et al. Proves that the original paternal seal was forensically evicted and replaced by its brother and different lineages of strangers. When it comes to testing ancient DNA in the land of Israel at sites like the Natufian burial site, there's selective disclosure, the conflict of interest. The primary genetic studies claiming the absence of E1B1A in the Levant were largely conducted by Israeli researchers, for example, Bahar et al. By excluding E1B1A from the Levantine profile, they maintained the identity displacement of the true heirs of the land. The brother proof. We use E1B1B, Esau, also known as Edom, to prove E1B1A Jacob, since both carry the Y-ALU polymorphism and they both sit on a P2 node. They are biologically inseparable. To claim one is Middle Eastern and the other is African is a forensic fraud designed to hide the Shemetic mosaic. Our sourced information, Cruciani et al. 2004, the American Journal of Human Genetics labels E1B1A, also EM2 and V38, and E1B1B, EM35 as sibling clades from a common Near Eastern father. Let's continue this forensic audit of the forbidden truth of your DNA and what they don't want you to know by now taking a look at the major kingdoms of the Shemetic seal. To trace the paternal ledger, we must look past the modern borders. The ancient world was defined by the Yap seal, a biological territory that stretched from the Euphrates to the Nile. These kingdoms were not just political allies and enemies, They were a massive genetic block of Shemetic houses. First up, we have the Kingdom of Judah, the southern stronghold where the E1B1A seed was forensically concentrated and preserved through the Davidic line. Next up, the northern Kingdom of Israel, the 10-tribe confederacy that carried the E1B1A signature before the Assyrian redaction. This was the primary epicenter of the House of Yap and the Levant. The Kingdom of Idumea, the primary brother proof, the descendants of Esau settled the Seir Mountains. Their genetic signature is the Yap E1B1B, proving they are biological siblings of the E1B1A Israelites. Next up, kingdoms of Moab and Ammon, the descendants of Lot. These Transjordan strongholds carry the Yap seal, establishing a biological border that the later M89 expansions would struggle to breach for centuries. Number 5 on the list, we have the tribes of Ishmael, firstborn of Abraham. The original Arabian ledger was written in the Yap E and D signatures. Mainstream science uses the later M89J1 to redefine the Arab, but the forensic record of the Nabateans and the early desert tribes reveals the original Yap seal. Next up, the Assyrian Empire, the military superpower of the north. Ancient remains from the Assyrian heartland show a foundational Yap E lineage presence for the M89 Japhetic J lineage overlay. Automatic displacement alert. Kingdom of Elam. The original Elamites carried the Yap signature before the M89 Indo-Aryan R1A expansion renamed the land Persia. Next up, number 8, the Sabine Kingdom, Sheba. The Queen of the South established a biological alliance of the Yap D and E seed between the Levant and the Horn of Africa. And last, the Aksumite Solomonic dynasties, the southern extension of the Shemetic house that preserved the Yap seal after the Roman R1B scattering. They are the living receipt of the 70 AD migration. There are more kingdoms that we will touch on, but that'll be for the follow-up video when we look at what happened to everyone after the dispersal and those different time periods. But now let's have another quick side note of forensic audit on what we just went over. Notice the pattern. Every one of these kingdoms carry the Yap seal. Mainstream science called them disappeared or evolved, but the ledger proves they were simply scattered. They didn't lose their identity, they just lost their geography. The names Israel, Moab, Ishmael are now hidden under the E1B1A and E1B1B labels of the African interior. Okay, chapter 7 consisted of a lot of information due to it being the most contested branch of the human tree. Now let's wrap chapter 7 up with our forensic summary. The covenant seal restored. In chapter 7, we have forensically identified the House of Shem, not by geographic borders, but by the immutable Yap seal. We have dismantled the scientific babble that claims an absence of E1B1A in the Levant by auditing the primary archaeological receipts from the Natufian Foundation, the Royal 20th Dynasty of Egypt, and the Judean pre-pottery Neolithic burial sites. We have exposed the 70 AD Roman eviction as a targeted biological removal aided by the phylogenetic betrayer of the brothers, the Edomites, E1B1B, by citing Luis et al. 2004 and Josephus. We have tracked the E1B1A seed as it moved its biological ledger from the Levantine epicenter into the blind spots of the African interior. Finally, we have reconstructed the true Shemetic map, proving that the northern kingdom, Moab, Ammon, and Ishmael were all part of a massive unified genetic block. The names may have been displaced by the M89 expansion, but the Yap seal remains as the living receipt of the covenant preserved in the exiles of the Niger and the dynasties of the south. Geography was the mass, but the Yap paternal seal is the man. The heirs have been located in the dirt of the Levant and the tombs of the kings. The displacement is no longer a theory, it is a proven forensic fact. We move now to chapter 8 to see how religious fabrications was used to seal the eyes of the world and how the final awakening is unfolding in the blood of the people. Let us continue.
Nazis, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah, in the African American community in this country, right? To eliminate them. That's why she formed Planned Parenthood, was specifically to kill African Americans.
If you have made it with me this far through the audit, I would like to give you thanks and ask that you please like, share, and subscribe. This is the 8th and final chapter of our forensic audit, The Forbidden Truth About Your DNA. Let's get started on the 8th and final chapter, Religious Fabrication, the Final Displacement. The forensic audit is clear. The biological ledger has identified the foundation of Ham, the enlargement of Japheth, and the covenant seal of Shem. Yet a massive global discrepancy remains. If the blood tells one story, why does the world believe another? The answer lies in the final layer of our audit, religious fabrication. To secure the onomastic displacement and the identity theft of the true heirs, 3 administrative religious layers were constructed to overwrite the biological reality with a theological fiction. The 3 layers of fabrication. Layer 1, the J1 and J2 modern narrative. By utilizing phylogenetic conflation, modern institutions have rebranded the M89 Japhetic neighbors, J1 and J2, as the original Shemetic inhabitants of the Levant. This religious fabrication uses the Talmud and Torah to claim a biological deed that the Y chromosome explicitly denies. The forensic glitch, as proven in Chapter 4, J1 and J2 carry the M89 paternal seal of the Highland neighbors, not the Yap seal of the Levant's indigenous sons, not the Yap seal of the Levant's indigenous sons, not the Yap seal of the Levant's indigenous sons.
Not the Yap seal of the Levant's indigenous sons, indigenous sons, indigenous sons, indigenous sons, indigenous sons.
Layer 2, the Roman European construction. Using the R1b Magog, the Iron Roman Administrative Complex rebranded the history of the Levant as a European directed narrative by creating a Western image of the biblical figures. The finalized onomastic displacement, detaching the Yap heirs from their own ancestors. Layer 3, the Arabized overlay, the expansion of the M89 J1 lineages under the banner of Islam further silenced the Yap footprint. This religious layer rebranded ancient Shemetic and Hamitic lands of the East as Arab, completing the displacement of the original E1B1A and E1B1B signatures.
What did God give the descendants of Japheth? Europe. Brain. What's Europe? Western world. The Western world will always control the descendants of Ham, the Arab world. Because Japheth has got the brain, the Arab world has got the wealth. So these people will control them and control their wealth. That's why America went into Iraq and destroyed it. They play games with the Middle Eastern people. They got the brain. What did God give to the descendant of Shem? Now Shem, who came from Shem? Abraham.
The final awakening, the blood speaks. For centuries, these fabrications held, but the snip revolution of the 21st century has acted as a forensic light in a dark room. The categorical overlap is failing because you cannot argue with a single nucleotide polymorphism. As the Yap E1B1A heirs in the West and the African interior begin to audit their own blood, the Roman Japhetic infrastructure is collapsing. The prophetic calibration. The gathering of the scattered seed is no longer a theological hope. It is a documented genetic event. The post-Roman migration routes analyzed in Chapter 7 are being traced back to the source by a generation of forensic auditors. The verdict. The audit is closed. The basal builders of Ham and the enlarged neighbors of Japheth and the covenant heirs of Shem have been forensically restored to their proper places in the human tree. All right, now let's summarize Chapter 8, and then also summarize the entire audit. Chapter 8, Forensic Summary, the final displacement exposed. In Chapter 8, we have audited the final psychological layer of the deception, religious fabrication. We have exposed how three distinct theological layers, the J1, J2 modern Judaism narrative, the Roman European Christianity construction, and the Arabized Islam overlay, were utilized to administratively overwrite the biological reality of the Yap seal. We have demonstrated that the M89 expansion did not just steal geography. They used religious doctrine to secure a phylogenetic deed to lands that their Y chromosome explicitly denied. Most importantly, we have identified the final awakening not as a theological concept, but as a documented genetic event where the scattered E1B1A heirs are using the SNP revolution to break the Roman Japhetic infrastructure and restore the true paternal record. Now we're going to do our full documentary, audit summary, the restored ledger. The audit of the human ledger is now conclusive across all 8 chapters. We have 1. Dismantle the primate myth and the molecular clock, collapsing 100,000 years of deep time into a forensic window of 6,000 to 6,500 years ago, chapters 1 and 2. 2nd, isolated the 3 patriarch master seals, the basal negative Ham, the Yap covenant heir Shem, and the M89 enlarged Japheth. That was in chapter 3. Third thing, exposed the M89 manipulation, proving that the modern claims of the Levant are biologically part of the Japhetic expansion tree, not the Shemetic seal in chapter 4. Fourth thing, restored the House of Ham as the high intelligence architects of Egypt, Sumer, and the Indus Valley, proving they were contemporaries and not precursors, as mainstream science loved to call them. That was chapter 5. Fifth thing, fenced in the House of Japheth, tracing the M89 signature to its Siberian and Caucasian highland starting points, proving they were the neighbors who descended to dwell in the tents of others. That was in chapter 6. 16. Located the true line of Shem in the ancient burial sites of the Levant and the royal mummies of Egypt, confirming the 70 AD Roman eviction of the E1B1A seed into the African interior. That was in chapter 7. Seventh and last, deconstructed the religious fabrications used to seal this identity theft, confirming that the blood is now speaking the truth that history tried to hide in chapter 8. History was the lie, the blood is the truth, the audit of the human ledger is complete, but this is only the beginning of the restoration. The record has been unsealed and the heirs have been identified. Yet the forensic trail goes deeper. I am now calling on you to join the audit team. If you are ready to move past the agreed upon lies and conduct a deep dive into the raw data of the world, subscribe and join us for the next upcoming forensic audits. Our next investigation will be a comprehensive step-by-step deep dive into exactly what happened in the centuries following the 70 AD expulsion, tracking the covenant seal as it moved through the gates of the south and into the wilderness. The ledger is open and the truth cannot be silenced. The audit continues. As we close this audit, we must issue one final forensic alert. I hope y'all didn't think I was going to let y'all get away without me doing one final forensic alert. Mainstream genetic maps are designed to be static, but the biological ledger is kinetic. When you see a map labeled current distribution of haplogroups, understand that you are looking at a crime scene after the bodies have been moved. These maps represent the result of the Assyrian overlap, the Roman eviction, and the Arabized overlay. They show where the neighbors currently dwell, not where the seeds were planted. To find the truth, you must look past the onomastic displacement of the modern borders. Do not let a map of modern Israel or modern Africa overwrite the paternal seal written in your blood. The land can be renamed, the history can be redacted, but the read-only ledger remains. Audit is in the snips, not the label.
Under that tree,
And burying
and
them.
somebody will climb and cut the rope. He will fall
Fall
into
into
the
the
pit.
pit and is
They
buried.
will close the pit and return
You know
that
what?
rope.
You know what you are?
Who are
You are an ancient Israelite.
Ancient Israel, that's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time,
But
all that he said,
I know. We don't have.
so many years.
I know. Look at it. This is pages and pages of
Yes.
notes, and I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? That is the question I have for you.
Thank you. I'll answer that question.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
I will help you.
After the demise of Solomon, we now have the northern and southern kingdom of Israel.
Yes.
So when we talk about Jews, Jews are Israelites, but all Israelites are not Jews. The 10 tribes that got lost are not Jews. They were Israelites.
Well, it's depending.
So
Well,
minority cannot swallow the majority. We are here. We are the majority down here. So you are minority, and we are older than you.
All right, Brother.
Wait. One more thing. I hear all the Lashawan Kodash hate as of late. We have brothers out here who used to push it heavy, but now since they have a so-called scholar who's pushing bastardized Hebrew for sale classes, LQ is supposed to be a fake language now. This is another forensic audit for another time. In the meantime, Kal Halaya, Basham, Yahawashah, Hamashayak, Abba Barakayam, Yasharala, Shalom.
And where it gets interesting is, in America, there was a slave trade. And a lot of the slaves, a very high percentage of them, came from Western Nigerian ports. And in America today, you see a very large movement of African Americans who say that they're the real chosen people, that they're the children of Israel, they're the Judeans. You know, so what are they just trying to create an identity for themselves because they were slaves, or is there really something here? And the answer is, most likely there is something there. And most likely, maybe that they were the original Israelites, and maybe that the Jewish people today who are white, Caucasian people came in a little bit later on. We know that some of the greatest sages of the transmission of the Torah were converts from Rome. You have a man named Onkelos who wrote a commentary on the Torah, unprecedented, that we still learn today. He was a convert. Some of the largest pillars on the transmission today were Roman converts. So here we are, we're Caucasian Jewish people, and now you have people in Africa saying that they're the real people of Israel. It can't be ruled out at all. We know they were sold into slavery. We know now that they're fulfilling prophecies by saying, we're coming back.
So that she killed